The border fleets of the Galactic Empire were restless that cycle. For centuries, patrols had been routine. Every ship that passed through this region was catalogued, checked, and cleared. No one had dared to challenge the authority of the Empire in living memory. Captains grew lazy, commanders confident, and soldiers believed nothing new would ever come from the void. But then, without warning, the sensors began to tremble. A strange reading appeared on the screens of the command station that watched the frontier. At first, the officers thought it was a fault in their equipment. The signal was irregular, pulsing with energy levels that did not match any known pattern. The technicians reset the systems, scanned again, and then went pale. The object was real. Something vast was approaching from deep space. Admiral Varun, the officer in charge of the sector, leaned forward as the display cleared. What appeared was not a swarm of pirates nor a lost freighter, nor even a rogue smuggler's craft. It was a single ship, enormous in size, larger than anything the border fleets had ever faced. The hull shimmered with battle scars that told of wars long past, yet the structure stood whole, steady and powerful. The bridge of the command station filled with quiet voices. Some whispered that it must be an advanced prototype from another empire. Others claimed it was a ghost ship, some relic drifting through the galaxy. But as the vessel moved closer, its purpose became clear. This was no drifting wreck. It moved with intent, precise and confident, as if it belonged in that place more than the Empire itself. The Admiral called for immediate scans. The results confused everyone. The technology was unlike anything in the Imperial archives. Its energy signature was ancient yet terrifying. The ship's power core pulsed with a rhythm that none of the analysts could identify. Shields, armor, and weapon systems lit up the sensors with readings that made no sense to them. The Empire had catalogued thousands of civilizations, but nothing matched what they saw before them. "Open a channel," Admiral Varun ordered. His voice was calm, but those who knew him could hear the tension beneath it. The Empire had grown used to dominance. They had not spoken to a stranger without superiority in centuries. The communications officer sent a hail. Silence followed. The ship did not reply. It simply drifted closer, slow and deliberate, as if testing the patience of the Empire. The officers exchanged nervous looks. Across the command deck, Commander Hiron, second in command, leaned toward the Admiral. "It could be a trap. Perhaps rebels have built this with stolen technology." The Admiral shook his head. "No rebel could construct such a vessel. Look at its frame. It was not built yesterday. This ship has endured for decades, maybe centuries. Whoever commands it has seen wars we have forgotten." The Admiral's words sent a shiver through the crew. None dared to admit it, but they all felt the same unspoken fear. The mysterious ship finally slowed, taking position just outside the border defense line. It did not cross into Imperial territory, but it did not retreat either. It lingered there like a predator at the edge of a forest, watching silently, daring the Empire to act. Meanwhile, deep inside the Empire's capital, the High Council received word. Messages carried by faster-than-light relays described the intruder in urgent detail. The Council gathered in their grand chamber, lined with golden banners that celebrated centuries of victory. Yet as the descriptions of the vessel reached their ears, the banners seemed less bright. One elder counselor tapped the table with his clawed fingers. "It may be a trick of another empire. Perhaps the Union of Vaynor seeks to test us," another replied in a hushed tone. "No known empire builds ships like this. If it is what the scans suggest, then we face something outside our understanding." The council fell silent. Across the room, a younger official spoke words that made many turn pale. "There are records, very old ones, before our empire rose. They speak of a species that fought even when their worlds burned. A species that refused to bow. The archives name them humans." The name drifted across the chamber like a ghost. Few believed humans still existed. The Empire's histories claimed they had been erased, scattered, and broken long ago. Their colonies were marked as destroyed, their fleets shattered, their people forgotten. But now the evidence stood in orbit at the edge of Imperial space. On the frontier, Admiral Varun received the Council's message. He stared again at the mysterious vessel, now lit by the pale glow of a nearby star. If this was truly a human ship, then the galaxy was about to change. The Admiral clenched his fist behind his back. The Empire had built its strength on the belief that no one could stand against it. But in that silent arrival, in that scarred and unyielding battleship, he saw the shadow of something greater. He did not know yet if it was hope or doom, but he felt the truth with every beat of his heart. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy held its breath. The massive battleship remained on the border of Imperial space, steady and silent. Every hour it stayed there, the tension inside the Empire grew stronger. The admirals wanted answers. The council wanted certainty. The citizens wanted to know why their rulers seemed suddenly uneasy. One ship, and yet it shook the largest empire the galaxy had ever seen. Inside the Imperial capital, the High Council summoned their most trusted historians. For generations, the Empire had buried knowledge of its earliest wars. Now those old records were brought out, heavy with dust stored deep in the archives that few had entered. Machines decoded the ancient texts, and slowly the truth emerged. The Empire had fought humans before. Long ago, before the Empire controlled half the galaxy, humanity had spread across the stars. They were not the strongest race nor the most advanced, but they were determined in ways others could not understand. When their colonies were attacked, they did not surrender. When their fleets were destroyed, survivors regrouped and fought again. The records described battles where human ships fought until the last piece of metal burned. The council chamber grew quiet as the historians spoke. One official whispered, "We believed they were gone." Another added, "We erased their maps, their history, their very name. How can they return?" The lead historian replied, "They never vanished. They adapted. They hid when they had no power. They rebuilt in silence. The fact that this ship stands before us means that their spirit never died." Back at the frontier, Admiral Varun watched the human ship closely. His staff worked without rest, trying to decode its design. Each scan revealed contradictions. The armor looked old, yet it resisted every probe. The engines appeared ancient, yet they allowed the ship to move with incredible precision. Some parts of the hull seemed patched with older technology, but other sections glowed with unknown energy patterns. It was a ship of paradoxes, built from both history and innovation. Commander Hiron could not hide his unease. "Admiral, if humans have returned, then we face a danger greater than we imagine. A race that refuses to surrender is not easily controlled." Varun nodded slowly. "And yet we must not underestimate them. If this is only one ship, it means little. But if there are more..." He let the thought hang in the air. The possibility of a fleet, hidden somewhere beyond the charts, was enough to shake even his confidence. The admiral ordered his officers to record every movement of the ship. Days passed, but the battleship remained still, like a monument from another age. It sent no messages, revealed no crew, and made no demands. Its silence was more powerful than any words. It forced the Empire to remember what it had tried to forget. Meanwhile, whispers spread across the galaxy. Merchant vessels carried rumors to distant systems. Colonists spoke of a nameless ship that defied the Empire's authority. Some believed it was only a story. Others believed it was a sign of change. The oppressed worlds, long under the weight of imperial rule, found hope in the tale. If humans had truly returned, then perhaps the Empire was not eternal after all. Inside the human ship, a single figure stood at the command deck. The captain of the vessel, his face lined with the marks of age and struggle, gazed at the stars with calm eyes. He knew the Empire was watching, and that was exactly what he wanted. For humanity, survival was never only about strength. It was about patience, resilience, and the right moment to reveal themselves. His crew worked quietly around him. Every officer, every soldier on that ship carried the legacy of centuries of struggle. They were descendants of survivors, those who had fled when humanity's worlds burned. They had grown up with stories of loss, but also of defiance. To them, standing at the border of the Empire was not a risk. It was destiny. The captain placed his hand on the console, feeling the steady hum of the engines. The ship was more than metal. It was the memory of humanity, a fortress of history and hope. He spoke softly to his officers. "They will test us. They will threaten us, but we will not move. They must remember who we are." Back in the capital, the council argued without end. Some demanded immediate attack, fearing that hesitation would invite rebellion across their territories. Others urged caution, reminding the council that even a single ship had already shaken their image of strength. If they lost in battle, the entire galaxy would see it. Finally, the highest voice in the chamber spoke. The Emperor himself, hidden behind a veil of light, gave the command. "Send a fleet. Surround the ship. Show them the Empire does not fear ghosts from the past." The order spread through the channels at once. Across star systems, warships prepared for deployment. Cruisers, destroyers, and carriers gathered like storm clouds. The Empire would send a message of power. But far away, at the lonely border where the human battleship waited, Admiral Varun watched the screens with heavy thoughts. He knew the fleet was coming. He knew orders would demand confrontation, yet he could not ignore the strange feeling that grew in his chest. The Empire believed the ship was a threat. Varun feared it was something more. Perhaps it was a warning. Perhaps it was the beginning of a story the Empire was not ready to face. The forgotten race had returned. And with them, the silence before the storm. The day the Imperial fleet gathered at the border, the stars themselves seemed to tremble. Hundreds of ships stretched across the dark, their engines glowing like suns, their weapons charged and ready. It was the greatest display of power the border region had ever seen. The Empire wanted to make one thing clear. No outsider, no forgotten race, no ghost of history could challenge their rule. Admiral Varun stood on the bridge of his flagship as the fleet arrived. His officers were busy directing squadrons into position, but his gaze never left the silent battleship that hung at the edge of Imperial space. It had not moved since its arrival. It had not fired a single weapon. Yet standing against it, even with so many Imperial ships around him, Varun felt no comfort. Commander Hiron stepped beside him. "The fleet is ready, Admiral. We can surround the intruder within minutes. Orders from the capital are clear. The ship is to be forced out or destroyed." Varun's jaw tightened, and yet it remained silent. No demand, no attack, only presence. "Tell me, Hiron, what kind of commander risks placing a single ship against the Empire unless he holds a truth we do not see?" The commander frowned but did not answer. Across the fleet, tension grew. Captains checked their targeting systems. Pilots strapped themselves into fighters. Soldiers prepared for battle they believed would be quick. The Empire had crushed far larger enemies with less effort. To them, one ship was nothing but a challenge to be erased. Finally, Admiral Varun gave the order. "Open a channel. Let us see if the intruder will speak." The communications officer sent the signal. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the screen flickered and a calm voice answered. It was deep, steady, and carried a weight that made the officers fall quiet. "This sector belongs to humanity. Leave now." Gasps filled the Imperial bridge. The voice was not pleading. It was not defiant in anger. It was calm, as though the speaker had no doubt of his words. Humanity. The word itself struck the officers like lightning. Varun's chest grew heavy. The old record spoke truth. This was not a rebel trick. This was not a disguised fleet from another empire. This was humanity, returned from the shadows of history. The officers waited for Varun's response, but the admiral did not answer at once. He studied the image on the screen. The face that looked back at him was human, lined with age but clear with resolve. This man was not afraid. He was not desperate. He was a leader who had chosen his ground. Commander Hiron broke the silence. "Admiral, they threaten Imperial space." "We must act," Varun's voice was steady. "They do not threaten, they warn. And warnings are never given without reason." But orders from the capital were absolute. The Empire demanded obedience, and Varun had no choice. With a heavy breath, he raised his hand. "Signal the fleet. Prepare to engage." The void came alive. Imperial ships closed their formation, weapons glowing across the black. Fighters shot forward like swarms of metal insects. The fleet locked the human battleship inside a cage of firepower. The captain of the human vessel watched quietly as the Empire surrounded him. His officers stood ready at their stations. None trembled, none hesitated. They had expected this. They had lived their entire lives preparing for this moment. "Steady," the captain said. "Do not fire unless they strike first. Let them reveal themselves." The Imperial fleet moved closer. On Varun's bridge, the final commands rang out. "All ships, target the intruder, fire!" The blackness of space erupted with light. Beams of plasma, bursts of missiles, and torrents of energy streaked toward the human ship. For a moment, the galaxy itself seemed to burn. The fleet's firepower was overwhelming. No vessel had ever survived such a storm. The officers of the Empire cheered. But then the light faded and the truth was revealed. The human battleship remained. Its shields shimmered like a calm sea struck by waves, bending and glowing but never breaking. The ship did not move away. It did not fall. It stood in place unshaken. Admiral Varun felt his heart freeze. Impossible. one officer whispered. Then the human ship replied. With a single pulse, one cannon fired. The beam struck an Imperial cruiser, and the great vessel split apart as though it were made of glass. A second shot followed, tearing another warship to pieces. Within seconds, 3 ships were gone, reduced to wreckage, drifting in silence. The Imperial fleet fell into chaos. Captains shouted orders. Fighters broke formation. The storm of confidence that had filled the Empire a moment before turned into panic. On the bridge of the human battleship, the captain gave a single nod. Hold position. Let them see. Let them remember. Admiral Varun's chest tightened as he watched his fleet struggle. He had obeyed orders. He had followed the Empire's will. Yet what he witnessed now was more than defeat. It was revelation. The forgotten race had returned, and with only one ship, they had shown the Empire that power built on fear could be broken. For the first time in centuries, the Empire hesitated, and in that hesitation, humanity's message rang clear across the stars. The battlefield of the border was no longer silent. Where calm stars once shone, now wreckage drifted, lit by sparks of broken ships. The human battleship remained in place, its shields glowing faintly, its weapons quiet after a single volley. Around it, 3 Imperial cruisers had been reduced to fragments, their crews lost to the void. Admiral Varun stood frozen on the bridge of his flagship. His fleet had unleashed the strongest strike they could muster. By all logic, the intruder should have been erased. Instead, it endured the storm, then answered with a blow so precise, so devastating that it silenced every cheer in the fleet. Commander Hiron's voice shook as he turned to the admiral. This is not possible. No ship can withstand that kind of assault. Their shields should have collapsed. Their hull should have broken apart. Varun's eyes narrowed. Yet it stands, and it strikes as if every shot has purpose. He could not take his eyes off the mysterious vessel. It did not chase fleeing fighters. It did not continue firing. It simply waited, calm and unshaken, as if daring the Empire to test it again. Across the Imperial fleet, panic spread. Captains barked orders to regroup, but their voices betrayed fear. Pilots pulled back their fighters, unwilling to throw themselves at a ship that seemed untouchable. The Empire's power, long unquestioned, cracked before the eyes of its own soldiers. In the human battleship, the captain stood tall, his hands clasped behind his back. He watched the scattered Imperial fleet through the viewing screens. Around him, his crew held steady at their stations, their faces showing not pride but focus. They had prepared for this moment for years. The captain spoke softly, his words carrying across the bridge. They came with numbers. They came with fire. And yet we remain. Do not let pride blind you. Remember why we stand here. We are not here to destroy them. We are here to remind them. His officers nodded. They understood. Every man and woman on that ship knew the history carried in their veins. They were descendants of survivors, children of exiles who had refused to let humanity's flame die. This was more than a battle. This was a message. Back on the Imperial flagship, Admiral Varun felt the weight of that message. His officers looked to him for direction, but he saw doubt in their eyes. Never before had they questioned Imperial superiority. Now for the first time, they wondered if the Empire could be defeated. Varun closed his eyes for a moment. He remembered the old records, the stories of humans who fought until the last star burned. At the time, he had thought them exaggerations, myths from a chaotic age. Now, standing before a single ship that defied his fleet, he understood those records had been truth. The communications officer turned in panic. Admiral, should we request reinforcements? More ships can be sent from the core systems. Varun shook his head slowly. More ships will not matter. If one battleship can resist us, then numbers will only feed their legend. Still, the orders from the capital were clear. The Empire could not retreat, not openly, not while the galaxy watched. Every nearby system had their eyes fixed on this confrontation. If the Empire backed down, rebellion might ignite across its worlds. Varun knew this truth well, but another truth weighed heavier. If they continued, they risked proving to the galaxy that humans could not be broken. As the Admiral considered his options, the human ship moved at last. Engines glowed with blue light and the vessel glided forward. Not fast, not in pursuit, but with the confidence of a predator walking through its territory. The Imperial fleet parted instinctively, unwilling to block its path. Commander Hiron gritted his teeth. They are mocking us. No, Varun replied. His voice was low but certain. They are teaching us. The human ship halted again, still within the border region. Then its voice rang across every Imperial channel, heard by captains, pilots, and even soldiers waiting inside carriers. You came with fire, and we endured. You came with numbers, and we stood. We do not seek conquest. We do not seek your throne. But hear this. Humanity will never kneel. Leave this space or lose more than you imagine. The words spread across the fleet, sharp and steady. For soldiers raised to believe the Empire's will was unshakable, those words carried a power greater than weapons. For the first time, they heard defiance spoken not with desperation but with certainty. On the bridge of the flagship, silence hung heavy. Officers waited for Varun's command, but the Admiral stood still. He knew the decision he made now would echo through the Empire. If he attacked again, he might lose more ships and prove the intruder's words true. If he pulled back, he would defy the capital's orders and risk his career, perhaps even his life. Varun's heart ached with the weight of choice. Yet as he gazed once more at the human battleship, scarred yet unbroken, he felt a strange respect rise within him. He had served the Empire his entire life, but never before had he witnessed such resolve. The Admiral finally spoke, his words quiet but clear. Signal the fleet. Hold position. We do not advance, gasps filled the bridge. Commander Hiron turned sharply. Admiral, the capital will not forgive this. Varun's eyes did not move from the screen. Let them decide what to forgive. I will not throw lives into fire without purpose. Humanity has shown us what they are. And the galaxy is watching. Beyond the flagship, the human ship remained steady, its hull shining against the stars. It had fired only a few shots, yet its message thundered across the galaxy louder than any cannon. The Empire had struck, and for the first time, the Empire had been struck back. The first strike was complete, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. The wreckage of the battle still floated at the border when the first rumors began to spread. At first, only the soldiers of the fleet whispered about it, voices trembling as they spoke of a single ship that had survived the Empire's greatest strike. Soon the whispers reached merchants, travelers, and station workers. Within days, the story had traveled far beyond the frontier, carried on trade vessels and encrypted messages. Every world under Imperial control knew the name of the intruder. The humans. For centuries, the Empire had told its people that humans were gone, erased from history, wiped away like dust from stone. Now those same people heard of a battleship with human markings that had stood against hundreds of Imperial vessels. They heard of cruisers shattered in moments, of fighters fleeing, of an admiral who had not pressed the attack. On mining colonies, workers told the tale as they struck the rocks. On farming worlds, families gathered at night to repeat the words. In city markets, merchants sold trinkets with symbols said to be human. To many, the story became more than news. It became hope. Hope was dangerous. In the capital, the High Council met in secret chambers. Their faces were pale, their voices tense. Some demanded immediate vengeance. Others feared the damage had already been done. The Empire had ruled through fear, and fear depended on the illusion of strength. If one ship could break that illusion, what would happen when billions of subjects realized the Empire was not invincible? One counselor struck the table with his hand. We must crush them now before this tale spreads further. Every ship must be sent to the frontier. No trace of this human vessel must remain. Another counselor shook his head. It is too late. The tale has already flown across the stars. Even if we destroy the ship tomorrow, the memory of its defiance will live. The people will remember that the Empire can be challenged. The chamber fell silent at those words. No one dared admit it aloud, but they all felt the same chill. The Empire had won countless wars, but never before had a single enemy ship forced them to question their own image. Meanwhile, on the border, Admiral Varun continued to hold his fleet in place. He had not attacked again, nor had he withdrawn. His officers obeyed, though many feared the consequences. Each day he watched the human battleship, and each day it remained steady and calm, like a sentinel of the past. Commander Hiron spoke often, urging action. Admiral, we must obey the capital. If we retreat, we show weakness. If we wait, we invite rebellion. The fleet must strike again. Varun's answer never changed. We have already struck. We have already seen the truth. To send more ships against that vessel is not victory. It is waste. The Empire may call me a coward, but I will not send men to die for pride. Though his words angered some, others respected him for them. Quietly, officers who had once believed in the Empire's unshakable power began to wonder. If the Admiral himself questioned, perhaps the Empire was not eternal. Far from the frontier, in hidden corners of the galaxy, rebellion stirred. On a desert world where Imperial soldiers marched daily through villages, a young farmer whispered to his family, "If the humans stand, so can we." On an ocean planet, a miner told his crew, "The Empire can bleed. We have proof now." Across the stars, small sparks lit up in the darkness, waiting for the chance to grow into flames. The human battleship did not move, yet its presence moved millions. Inside the ship, the captain understood this well. He spoke with his officers often, reminding them of their mission. "We are not here to destroy fleets. We are not here to conquer worlds. We are here to remind the galaxy of who we are. Humanity endures. Humanity returns. That truth is stronger than any weapon." His crew listened with respect. They knew every world that heard their story would change. They knew their silence and their strength carried more power than endless speeches. But the captain also knew the danger. The Empire would not accept humiliation forever. The High Council would demand revenge. More fleets would come, stronger and larger than before. And when that day arrived, the battleship might not endure forever. Yet the captain's eyes held no fear. Even if their ship fell, the idea of humanity would rise again. And no empire could erase an idea once planted in the hearts of the oppressed. Back in the capital, the Emperor himself listened to reports. For centuries he had ruled unseen, his commands delivered through layers of authority. Now he demanded every detail of the battle, every whisper of rebellion. His voice, deep and cold, echoed in the chamber. "The humans believe they can return. Then let them see the full might of the Empire. Prepare the Grand Fleet. We will remind the galaxy why we rule." The council bowed, though many trembled inside. Some wondered if even the Grand Fleet would be enough. Others feared what would happen if it failed. On the frontier, Admiral Varun felt the storm coming. He had no doubt more ships would arrive, and soon. He stood at the viewing glass, his eyes fixed on the human battleship. In its scarred hull, in its quiet defiance, he saw something he had never seen before. Not weakness, not desperation, but resolve. And for the first time in his long service, the Admiral whispered words that shocked even himself. "Perhaps they are right. Perhaps humanity truly cannot be erased." The stars burned on, silent witnesses to a truth that spread faster than any fleet. The Empire had shown its might. Humanity had shown its will. And across the galaxy, fear grew. Not of the humans, but of what their return meant. The illusion of invincibility was broken. And broken illusions cannot be rebuilt so easily. The human battleship floated at the edge of Imperial space like a calm shadow. Its shields hummed softly, reflecting starlight across the blackness. Admiral Varun's fleet held position, unwilling to fire again. His soldiers, pilots, and captains had all seen the impossible. One human ship had stood against hundreds of Imperial vessels, and now it spoke with authority that no orders or threats could match. Inside the human ship, the captain stood at the center of the command deck. His hands rested lightly on the console, his eyes calm as he observed the Imperial fleet. Every officer on the bridge moved with quiet efficiency. They did not celebrate victories, nor did they show fear. Their duty was clear and their resolve unbroken. "Open the communications channels," the captain ordered. His voice carried across the ship, steady and firm. "Let the Empire hear the truth. Let the galaxy understand who we are." The communications officer nodded and began sending a broadcast across every Imperial channel, every nearby station, and every ship in the border region. The message was simple but powerful. This is humanity speaking. We do not seek conquest. We do not seek war. We do not wish to harm those who have never harmed us. Long ago, your empire tried to erase us. You destroyed our colonies and scattered our people. You believed we could be forgotten. Yet here we stand. One ship may seem small, but it carries the spirit of all humans who survived, who endured, who refused to surrender. Hear this and remember it well. Humanity always returns. We will never kneel. We will never yield. The galaxy belongs to all who live in it, not to those who rule by fear. The broadcast echoed through the void. On the bridges of every Imperial ship, the words were heard and understood. Soldiers froze, Captains paused and admirals exchanged uncertain glances. The words were not a threat, yet they carried more power than any weapon. Admiral Varun felt the weight of the message deep in his chest. The Empire had built itself on fear, obedience, and absolute authority. Now that authority had been challenged by a single voice, calm and unwavering. He could see doubt in the eyes of his own officers, fear in the soldiers who had long believed the Empire's might was unshakable. Commander Hiron turned to Varun, his expression tense. "Admiral, they speak as though they own the stars. How can a single ship, a single crew carry such certainty? They will inspire rebellion if we do nothing." Varun nodded slowly. "That is the point. They do not need to conquer with fleets. Their words are stronger than firepower. The galaxy will hear them and some will listen. That is why they are dangerous." Across the Empire, the message spread faster than any fleet. On core worlds, citizens gathered in silence to hear the broadcast. Some could not believe that humans had survived. Others felt a spark of hope they had never known. Long oppressed by imperial rule, they saw in the humans a reflection of what they themselves could achieve. A single ship, a single voice had reignited courage in the hearts of millions. In distant colonies, merchants and traders repeated the words from memory. Families passed the story from one generation to the next. Even those who could not see the ship understood the meaning behind it. Humanity had returned, not with war or destruction, but with defiance and truth. The High Council in the capital seethed. The Emperor's face remained unreadable, but his voice carried authority that made every counselor tremble. "This human speaks as though they are the law of the stars. Prepare the Grand Fleet. Show the galaxy that the Empire cannot be defied. Crush them if you must." Yet even as orders were given, doubt had entered the hearts of many. Soldiers whispered about the courage of one ship. Captains questioned whether overwhelming numbers could truly break a spirit that refused to bow. And among the citizens of the Empire, rumors grew. Perhaps the humans had survived the past. Perhaps they could not be destroyed. Perhaps the galaxy was not theirs to rule alone. On the human battleship, the captain watched the reactions across the stars with calm eyes. "Let them prepare," he said. "Let them gather fleets and fire all their weapons. They may believe strength can erase history. They may believe fear will make us yield. They are wrong. Every act of aggression will only remind them that humans endure. Every weapon fired will tell the galaxy our story. Our strength is not in numbers. Our strength is in will, in spirit, in determination that cannot be broken." His officers nodded. They understood. They had trained, prepared, and lived for this moment. The message was not just for the Empire, but for the galaxy. Every system watching, every oppressed world hoping, every mind doubting imperial power now had proof that resistance was possible. Admiral Varun's fleet waited at the edge of the frontier. His eyes returned to the human battleship, now glowing faintly in the starlight. He had seen the impossible, and he could not deny it. Humanity had returned, and with it a new force that no empire could ignore. The captain's voice echoed once more, calm and unwavering. "Remember this. Humanity will not disappear. Humanity will always return. The galaxy will know that we are here, and those who try to erase us will learn the cost of their arrogance." The stars seemed to hold their breath. The Empire had been challenged not by hundreds of ships, but by one. A single ship that carried the spirit of a race that refused to die. And in that moment, the galaxy understood that humanity's return was only the beginning. The message had been sent. The Empire had heard, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. The galaxy held its breath. For centuries, the Empire had ruled without question, its authority absolute, its fleets unmatched. And yet at the edge of the border, a single human battleship had shown them something they had never seen before. That power alone could not command respect or obedience. Admiral Varun's fleet remained in place, silent under the watchful stars. He had not received new orders from the capital. Messages were slow, delayed by both distance and uncertainty. Every officer aboard his ships felt the same tension. No one wanted to act first, and yet no one wanted to retreat. The human vessel stood steady, unmoved, an unspoken challenge to the Empire's dominance. Across the galaxy, news traveled faster than fleets. Worlds under Imperial control whispered of the human ship that had resisted and struck down hundreds of Imperial vessels. Merchants shared the story with travelers. Farmers spoke of it in villages. Students debated the courage of a single ship, that had reminded the galaxy of a forgotten race. The humans had become more than a vessel. They had become a symbol. The Emperor, watching from the capital, ordered the Grand Fleet to mobilize. It was the largest collection of warships ever assembled. Cruisers, carriers, and battleships filled the void, engines blazing, weapons ready. Yet even in his presence, fear had begun to stir. The stories were more than rumors. The humans had not attacked indiscriminately. They had not sought to destroy colonies or enslave worlds. They had simply returned, and their return alone had shaken the Empire. In the human battleship, the captain observed the approaching fleet calmly. His crew, disciplined and focused, moved efficiently, checking systems, monitoring sensors, and preparing for any challenge. They did not need to rush. Their purpose was clear, their resolve unshakable. Humanity had endured for centuries in the shadows, and now they stood at the center of the galaxy's attention. "Prepare communications," the captain said. "This is not the time for battle. Let them hear us first. Let them understand who we are before they try to destroy us." The human broadcast went out, reaching every corner of the Imperial fleet and beyond. "This is humanity speaking once more. We do not seek conquest. We do not seek vengeance. We seek only recognition and survival. We have endured attempts to erase us. We have survived attacks meant to destroy our worlds. And now we return. Let this be known to the galaxy. Humanity will never be forgotten. The Empire may send its fleets, but no weapon can erase the will of those who refuse to surrender. Let all worlds see and remember that humans are here and we will not yield." Silence followed the broadcast. Soldiers and officers across the galaxy felt a strange weight in their chests. The words were not a threat, yet they carried more force than hundreds of ships. The courage of one vessel had reached billions, and the message was clear. Fear alone could no longer control the galaxy. Admiral Varun felt it most sharply. He had served the Empire his entire life. He had followed orders without question, and yet now, standing on the bridge of his flagship, he realized that obedience without understanding could not guarantee victory. He studied the human ship, its hull scarred but unbroken, its crew calm and determined. For the first time, he wondered if the Empire's power had limits. Commander Hiron leaned toward him. "Admiral, they speak to the galaxy, not just to us. Every system listening knows the truth now. The humans are back." Varun nodded slowly. "Yes, and the galaxy is listening." Even as the Grand Fleet advanced, hesitation grew. Some captains refused to fire first. Soldiers whispered to one another, asking if they were truly invincible. The stories of rebellion long buried began to awaken. Across distant worlds, oppressed populations dared to dream of freedom once more. Humanity's single ship had done what centuries of opposition could not. It had reminded the galaxy that the Empire could be challenged. The human captain watched the fleet close with steady eyes. "Let them come," he said softly. "Our duty is to endure. Our strength is in our resolve, not in numbers. One ship may not be enough to hold them forever, but our example will inspire countless others. The galaxy must remember that humanity never dies and humanity always returns." Admiral Varun, observing from the Imperial fleet, felt a change within himself. He could see the fear in the eyes of his own officers, the doubt in their commands, and the hesitation that spread across the ships. The Empire was vast, powerful, and seemingly unstoppable, but it had never faced a force that could inspire hope so effectively with courage alone. As the fleets drew closer, no shots were fired. Both sides understood that this confrontation was different. The humans did not need to strike again to prove their point. Their presence, their words, and their defiance had already changed the course of history. The stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter as the reality settled across the galaxy. One race, long thought extinct, had returned. They had not come to dominate. They had not come to destroy. They had come to remind everyone that survival, courage, and resolve were more powerful than fear and oppression. In that moment, the galaxy understood a simple truth. Humanity had returned, and with their return, the balance of power had shifted. The Empire could still rule by strength, but it could no longer command with certainty. Hope had been rekindled, and the future was no longer fixed. The human battleship drifted in the void, calm and enduring, a symbol of defiance, resilience, and the unyielding spirit of a race that refused to disappear. Across the stars, people whispered, soldiers paused, and rulers reconsidered. A new dawn had begun, and in that dawn, humanity would shape the galaxy once more.